Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of her undisputed super lightweight title fight with Chantal Cameron, Jessica McCaskill is thinking beyond that fight, eyeing a world title in a third weight class if she wins on Saturday. Undisputed welterweight champion Jessica McCaskill meets unified super lightweight champion Chantal Cameron for all of the 140-pound marbles in a real pick'em fight this Saturday, November 5th, at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi on the undercard of Bivol versus Ramirez. Should McCaskill emerge victorious in her fight, she revealed to ID Boxing that she would like to face Britain's WBA super welterweight champion Terry Harper next. Yeah, the article states, should Jessica emerge victorious, but I happen to think that Jessica facing Terry really isn't contingent upon what happens on Saturday. I've been saying it for weeks now. Whether Jessica beats Chantal or Chantal beats Jessica, Terry Harper, Natasha Jonas, those junior middleweight champions that are up there, the both of them are options, potential opponent options for Jessica, because I don't think the both of them are going to stay up there all that long. Moreover, she may be targeting Terry due to proximity, because they both fight on the Matchroom and DAZN side of things. Jessica McCaskill was quoted as saying, "We've actually been talking to Terry Harper's team and looking to move up in weight. I've never fought at 154 pounds. I think that's a bigger challenge than a rematch with Katie Taylor." Harper convincingly outpointed Scott Land's Hannah Rankin in September to win a championship in a second weight class. Former rival Natasha Jonas faces Marie-Eve Dicaire for the other three belts next Saturday in Manchester, and Harper's eyes will be firmly set on an undisputed fight with the Jonas versus Dicaire winner. Should that not happen, McCaskill could very possibly be the next biggest available fight for Harper. Been talking a lot about that situation up there at 154 pounds and how Harper versus Jonas 2 for all the marbles, for all the belts, is a palpable possibility. But we've also been talking a lot about the emergence of Mary Spencer, unbeaten amateur standout Mary Spencer of Canada, and how she's coming dangerously close to crashing that party. Mary Spence is very close to becoming the mandatory challenger for not just Terry Harper, but Natasha Jonas as well. And depending on what her next move is, beyond her upcoming fight with Femke Hermans, but I've no doubts Mary Spencer will win. Depending on who she goes after afterwards, whether it's Terry or Natasha, they may choose to either vacate the title or leave the division. And if they do end up leaving the division, well, they're not going to move up in weight up to middleweight. They're going to move down. In all likelihood, either Natasha Jonas or Terry Harper would make the decision, in that scenario, to move down in weight, perhaps to welterweight, where Jessica McCaskill has one or two belts that either Terry or Natasha could fight for, in a fight that would have more of a profile than a Mary Spencer fight. Mary Spencer, God bless her, she's a high-risk, low-reward opponent right now. For Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper, she is. And if the alphabets come a-knocking, ordering one of them or both of them to fight Mary Spencer, I don't think they're going to do it, I'm being honest. She's too big. Mary Spencer, she's too big, too strong, too well-schooled, and too fast. I think Mary Spencer would stop Terry Harper. I think she would stop Natasha Jonas. And before it comes to that, I think that both of those fighters, when faced with a decision, I think they would either choose to vacate those titles. How does this pertain to Jessica McCaskill? Well, Jessica McCaskill saying that she's willing to go up to junior middleweight to take on either Terry Harper or Natasha Jonas. She's willing to do that, but if by some chance Mary Spencer gets in the way, if she crashes that party, Jessica can have those same fights with those same fighters at welterweight, where she still reigns as a champion. If they move fast, they can do the fight with Terry at 154. But if Mary gets in the way, Terry can vacate the title, move down in weight, and fight Jessica at welterweight, where Jessica's still a champion, whether she wins this Saturday or loses. And that's what I mean when I say, irrespective of tomorrow's fight and tomorrow's outcome, whether Jessica wins or loses, Terry Harper is a realistic opponent option. So is Natasha Jonas to some degree. Rick Ramos has managed this situation quite well for his fighter, Jessica McCaskill. He's worked it out to where regardless of what happens on Saturday, Jessica still has options. The fight between her and Chantel Cameron, in many ways, it's a pick'em fight. In many ways, it's a 50-50 fight because Chantel Cameron, stylistically, has the right style to beat Jessica McCaskill. She does, but she's not as experienced as Jessica McCaskill. In spite of having more professional bouts than Jessica, Jessica's faced far better fighters. They have a common opponent in Ana E. Esther Sanchez, but Jessica also fought the then #1 super lightweight in the world, Erica Farias. She moved up in weight and she took on then unbeaten, undisputed welterweight champion Cecilia Brækhus. She very recently retired Alma Ibarra. So while Chantel might have the right style for the job, is she physically adept to the task? Is she physically up for it? Because Jessica McCaskill's been in there with the best. Like I said, it's a 50-50 fight. It's a pick'em fight, but regardless of what happens, Jessica's still in a position to fight in big fights beyond this weekend's fight. And that's what a good manager, a smart one, a clever one, can do for you. Jessica McCaskill is in good hands. In men's light heavyweight news ahead of tomorrow's mega match, Bivol anticipates an amazing fight with Zurdo Ramirez, expects a good challenge, and given Zurdo's experience as a fighter, his physical dimensions, and his base style, it promises to be an exciting fight. Because Zurdo Ramirez, perhaps more so than some other fighters, can put Dimitri in a situation where he's forced to fight, given that Zurdo Ramirez is a rather statuesque, physically imposing southpaw who also happens to be a pressure fighter, a volume puncher that goes downstairs and goes to the body, could perhaps slow a guy down in doing so. Makes for a precarious situation. Can be. It's a very intriguing fight because Dimitri, while he doesn't have as many professional contests, as many professional bouts as Zurdo, overall, he has faced better fighters than Zurdo has faced. He's fought taller fighters before, taller fighters like Lennon Castillo and Craig Richards, Joe Smith Jr. He's fought pressure guys, volume punchers like Joe Smith Jr., who I just mentioned, and former champion Jean Pascal. It's almost like Dimitri Bivol has seen more guys like Zurdo, even though Zurdo has more fights. Because how many guys like Dimitri has Zurdo shared the ring with? How many guys? Dimitri, who said, yes, of course, I know I can get damaged. I had a couple of friends. One was an amateur boxer, a national boxer, who died from boxing. And I had a friend, Maxim Dadashev. I knew him since I was a kid. He's dead from fighting because he got a lot of damage. Popular Russian super lightweight Dadashev passed away from his injuries after the first loss of his pro career to Subriel Matias in 2019. Perhaps it's these things that Dimitri has in mind when he goes into a fight and why he's such a defensively responsible fighter. He continued, when my father brought me to the boxing gym, every time I sparred against someone or I was in a competition, he told me, if you take too many punches, I will throw in the towel. Even if you're winning the fight. Bivol adds, I don't need my son to take a lot of punches. It's not healthy. By now, Bivol had started talking about his wife and 2 boys. He's thought about his children boxing and considered whether he wants them to or not. Rather than ruling it out, he pauses and says, to be honest, if they fight like Floyd Mayweather, I will be glad. If they fight like Arturo Gatti, please know, I respect Arturo Gatti. He's a legend, but not many people can fight like him and be healthy. You can make a good fight and not get punches on your head too, Bivol reasoned. You can. Maybe it's harder than to forget about everything and listening to your emotions and just fighting, but thinking about defense, thinking about how not to get hit and land your punches, it's hard work. It's one of Dimitri Bivol's finer qualities. He really encompasses that hit and not get hit mentality. He really is one of the most defensively responsible fighters in the entire sport of boxing, but as a result of that, he has sometimes been accused of being less than flashy, less than spectacular, less than entertaining. It's up to Zurdo Ramirez to really make this a fight, because Dimitri, if he has his way, he'll coast to a decision. He's poised like that. Of course. I like that people recognize me, not just as a person from somewhere, they recognize me as a good boxer, he explains. I want to get the respect. I don't just want to be famous. I want to do my job. And for people to respect me for that, that makes me happy.
Dimitri got to talking about a potential Artur Beterbiev fight, and he said,
"This is a fight that makes me excited. This is a fight for belts, and that's what I want. It's nothing against Beterbiev personally. It's not only about him, it's for his belts."
We talked about that in a previous video. We talked about how Dimitri Bivol, rather than prioritizing the bag, the proverbial bag, in a potential Canelo Alvarez rematch, he prioritizes glory, the glory and the legacy of becoming this division's undisputed champion.
I have a goal to become undisputed champion, and I still have this goal. I know him being Artur Beterbiev. I know him personally. When I was an amateur boxer in the national team, we were on the same side, but he was there earlier than me. We were there together a couple of years, and then he left. We're not friends, we just know each other.
Should he make it past Zerto this weekend, that's who he's got his eye on.
In some ways, this weekend's fight is almost a rehearsal for that fight, that potential Artur Beterbiev fight down the line. And if Dimitri aspires to climb in the ring with that guy, if he aspires to be able to weather that storm, he needs to prove this weekend that he can weather this one, the one that Zerto's bringing.
Zerto and Artur, they got their differences and their subtleties, but they both got the same base style. They're both pressure fighters.
Bivol continued, reference to his amateur days alongside Artur Beterbiev, saying, "We were together in the ring, but can't say it was sparring because we were in different weight classes. He was a cruiserweight, I was a middleweight," Bivol recalled. "Maybe 3 or 2 times we trained together, but it wasn't full sparring."
They're both light heavyweights now.
First things first, 44-0 Zerto Ramirez is determined to jump to the head of the 175-pound Q with a victory over Dimitri. The WBA champion is typically respectful of the Mexican Southpaw champion. He's a good fighter because he's 44 victories in 44 fights. He has good body punches. He makes the weight well. He's confident, Bivol said. "I think, first of all, it will be a great fight because we both want to win. We both don't know what losing is. And when people are well matched, it's an amazing fight. I want to fight him maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I said to my team, let's make this fight. First of all, he was a champion at super middleweight. I wanted to fight against another champion, then he has 0 losses. It's a good challenge for me."
Zerto Ramirez really isn't the boxer that Dimitri Bivol is. In many ways, he's not the boxer that Canelo Alvarez is. But what he is a mountain of a man, a mountain of a light heavyweight. And that presents its own set of unique challenges.
In the ring tomorrow, Zerto Ramirez may appear a cruiserweight. He may appear a guy who belongs in a different weight class than Dimitri Bivol once he rehydrates.
Look, I am going with Dimitri to win a points decision because I feel like Dimitri has seen more fighters like Zerto than Zerto has seen fighters like Dimitri. Seen them in the ring.
You know, Dimitri has been in there with fighters that have a height advantage, somewhat of a reach advantage. Fighters like Craig Richards and Lennon Castillo. Fighters like Joe Smith Jr. Big punchers and volume punchers like Joe Smith Jr. Experienced fighters like Jean Pascal. I feel like Dimitri has seen more of what Zerto has to offer than Zerto has seen of what Dimitri has to offer. But that's not saying that Zerto doesn't have certain things working for him. He does. He is more of a body puncher than those fighters are. And going to the body, when you're opposite the ring, a moving target, a mobile fighter, where you want to go is downstairs. Where you want to go is the body.
But because Dimitri is so much more mobile and defensively responsible than the fighters that Zerto has been fighting, it might be difficult to get off those shots.
How many times have you actually seen Zerto Ramirez in there with somebody who can fight on the balls of their feet the entirety of the fight, navigating that ring and still getting their shots off whilst being defensively responsible, whilst not giving the other guy very many chances to get something going?
This ain't Dominic Bocel opposite the ring. This guy ain't just gonna stand there and let Zerto Ramirez tee off on him.
I don't think. Though I am going with Dimitri Bivol on points in what promises to be a good stylistic clash. And finally, veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan tweeted, "We have a ticket update for Crawford versus Avanesyan. Yes, they are actually going on sale Monday, November 7th at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern Time via Ticketmaster. Tickets priced $50, $75, $125, $200, $350, and $500 per Black Prime announcement. Fight takes place December 10th at the Shy Health Arena, Omaha, Nebraska, Crawford's neck of the woods." And, you know, it really doesn't help the situation at all that this is a box office fight.
It is.
It's a pay-per-view that's set to be going down the same night as Teofimo Lopez's ring return against Jose Pedraza on the biggest sports network in the country, ESPN.
The last time we saw a box office fight go head-to-head with a show on ESPN was the Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius pay-per-view that was going down at the same time as the Devin Haney versus George Kambosos rematch.
And by now everybody knows that Deontay Wilder's box office fight, his big ring return, it tanked. It sold next to nothing at the box office. What was it? 77,000 buys? Down from 600,000!
Not even half of what he sold the last time out. Not even a quarter. You can argue that, well, the Tyson Fury trilogy was a more high-profile fight than the Robert Helenius fight, but
for all of these sentimental journos that are sweet on Deontay Wilder, and for the reception that he gets and the coverage from some content creators here on YouTube, they talk about this guy like he's the second coming of Mike Tyson. You'd never know it to look at his numbers. That was his big ring return.
and it didn't yield a big reception. It didn't bring in big pay-per-view buys. Coincidentally, it was going head-to-head with the Haney versus Kambosos rematch. I don't think that helped Wilder's situation. Coincidentally, I don't think Teofimo fighting the same night as Bud.
On that same network, the biggest sports network in the country, I don't think that helps Crawford's situation at all. Now, at the gate in Omaha, Nebraska, because Terrence Crawford has a cult following there, he might be able to drum up some business. He might be able to...
Grassroots push, he can sell some tickets.
In Omaha, Nebraska, he might. The Shy Health Arena's capacity is approximately 17,500 seats.
You think he can sell that many tickets?
It'd be pretty impressive if he does, if he can pack out the house with a David Avanesyan fight, though even if he does, it's really at the box office where he might suffer. You're
going head-to-head with a show that's happening on ESPN+, but the difference is your fight's a pay-per-view fight at a time when piracy in the sport of boxing is at an all-time high. People are stealing box office fights left and right. Nobody wants to pay for nothing.
I remember after the Sean Porter fight, it was Terrence Crawford who said that the fight happening on ESPN Plus hindered the fight's marketability. People didn't know how to work the tech, and that affected the buy rate. Well, how do you imagine this is going to affect the buy rate?
I'm pretty sure that more people are familiar with ESPN as a brand and as a platform than they are Black Prime.
The truth is, Crawford versus David Avanesyan is a keep busy fight because that Errol Spence Jr. fight wasn't going to happen this year anyway, so why let the year go to waste? I mean, that's the truth. The problem is that people generally don't want to pay box office prices for keep busy fights, like Fury versus Chizoria.
And even when it comes to fights that are pay-per-view worthy, people just don't want to pay box office prices anymore. The technology, the laws that govern it, haven't caught up to the piracy.
So Terrence and the people orchestrating this event, putting it together, they really do have an uphill battle, marketing this fight and promoting it and attempting to. I mean, I would assume they want to make a profit.
Well, of course they do. Nobody just wants to put on fights for the sake of putting on fights. The hope is that you'll actually get something out of it.
But I'm telling you, Terrence and the people at Black Prime, they really do have an uphill battle with this thing.
Selling it.